Well, welcome to the Headless Dam with Cloudinary Bootcamp course, lesson number 11, an intro to video streaming and adaptive bitrates presented by Akshay Ranganath, Senior Solution Architect at Cloudinary. I have a great interview with him that I did. You can watch this in the introduction section of this bootcamp, so just go there and you'll be able to learn all about him. Really cool guy, lots of knowledge. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring him on. Akshay, welcome. Glad to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and go away, let you focus on your presentation. For those of you watching live, type in your questions. I'll ask Akshay if there's any. It's all yours.
Great. Thank you. Hey, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to this great session. So today we're going to talk about adaptive bitrates and what is the concept of streaming. But just before I get started, I wanted to let you know that in this previous lesson from Cloudinary, we had Becky from our team who walked you through what is a video and what are the different formats that are available and how do you break a video into different components. So there is the codec and there is the actual file, then there is the audio component and so on. So with that background, we can jump in to streaming or the adaptive bitrate streaming. So in this lesson, we'll be covering these topics. The number one, what exactly is streaming? How does it even look like? And then the two important formats that everyone is using for the sake of streaming now, which is HTTP live streaming and Dash or dynamic adaptive streaming over HTTP. Then we'll take a look at how do you actually configure a player to play these kind of live streams or just streaming videos. And in the end, we'll just take one look at cool optimization that Cloudinary has, which kind of takes a little bit of the heavy lift from you and puts it on our backend. So that's what we have for today. Okay, so getting started. What does even streaming mean? So when you talk about streaming, typically we are talking about two different things. So there is an event that's happening, like the Football World Cup that happened a few weeks back, which is happening like right now, and you're watching it at home. That is a live stream. The other thing that could happen is you have a very large video, like a movie that you want to play, and the server is sending you chunks of it so that you can easily watch on your player. So that's the other kind of a stream. So typically we call it as video on demand versus live stream. Regardless, it's a stream, right? Now, what happens in either case is you have a large file or probably small chunks of files that comes in at very high resolution that's being captured by the camera, or you have like a .mov file that needs to be compressed for transport. So that's the first step, and that's where the previous lesson comes into play. The next step is you need to break it down into different chunks, which are called as segments. The way it happens is it can be based on size. So every chunk is always going to be, let's say, 64 KB, right? That's one way. Or it could be that every segment is going to be 10 to 15 seconds. That's the other way. So you break down the video into segments, and then you have to send it back to the browser or the device requesting. So you have to send it in the right sequence. So you have to tell the browser or the device that this is segment one, this is segment two, and so on. And finally, you need to deliver it over the internet. And the most common protocol that's available is HTTP. So that's what we use, right? So that's a very high level overview of what streaming is all about. The way it gets done, you have two different protocols, which are HLS or HTTP live stream. This is a protocol that is kind of favored by Apple devices. And then there is MPEG-Dash, which is favored more by the Android or Chrome devices. We'll get to see how they actually look like in a few moments. Now, jumping into the most important part, which is what does the word adaptive in the streaming itself mean? So we always call it as adaptive bitrate streaming. So where is it adapting and what is it even adapting, right? So what actually happens is you take a single video and then you actually transcode it to different resolutions. That is where the whole magic begins. So let's say you have an MP4 file, which was shot, let's say in 4K, so it's pretty large. and then you transcode it. One resolution, let's say, is 360 pixel in height, another one in 720 pixel in height, 1080 pixel in height. Now, this is where the different words like HD or full HD comes into play. So 720 pixel is HD, 1080 is full HD, and so on. So you transcode. So a single video now is giving you 3 different transcodings in 3 different resolution, and then you are able to deliver. But when you deliver, you tell the device that you have all of these resolutions, and it can pick and choose the right resolution that works best for it based on its network condition and its capabilities. So in this example, let's say this mobile device can only support 360 or 720 pixel. And when it begins, the network is all good. So maybe it's playing this part of the video, and the moment the network condition degrades, it quickly switches over and starts playing a 360 pixel video. And as the network improves, maybe it'll switch back. And this is a typical experience you may have noticed. So when you start a movie on Netflix or on Prime, you initially see the blurriness, especially in the black parts. You see it's kind of very deformed, and gradually it starts getting better and the quality improves. So that is where, that's basically adaptive bitrate that kicks in, right? So let's take a look at what this profile even looks like as far as Cloudinary goes. So if you can switch over to the Chrome, you will see this. So if you notice, what's happening here is we have different representations there. So the first one is saying there is one transform. So from the original video, we are going to create one version of it, which is 360 by 640 pixels. And we are telling what codec to use. So in this case, it's H.264. So for those of you who remember from last time, H.264 is the most commonly used format and the most well-supported format. So this video will probably play in literally any device. The next thing we are saying is we have another resolution, but the same codec. So if you notice, what's happening is all of these 3 different resolutions are using the same codec, and that is called as one representation for us, right? So there is one set, and then we may have others if we want to do like a device specific or OS specific representation. Great. Let's go back to the presentation. Now, this is how adaptive bitrate itself works, right? So let's take a look at what these representations mean when it comes to a specific format. So we have 2 different formats. There is MPEG-dash and HLS. What it essentially means is this file is just like a container, and what you put inside can change. Now in MPEG-dash, it says you can have a video which is in any codec. So it could be a VP9, which is again built by Google and well supported on Android, and older versions like VP8 or even HLS 264 and so on. So you can take any video codec and put it inside and send it. It should work. But what we see in the market or a general adaptation is the most typical one is VP9. So that's what we're going to see today. The other alternative, you have HLS, which is HTTP live streaming. And in that container, the video you put inside is a H.264 encoded video or a H.265 encoded video. If it's H.264, generally well supported, 265 Apple devices. What does the file format even look like in each case, right? So when the container has to send the information to the device, the first thing it sends is what's called as a manifest file. Now, in the case of Dash, that file has an extension of .mpd, and it's an XML, and it actually breaks out the content saying, here is all the video information, here is all the audio information. We're just keeping it simple in this case. You could even have like transcoding related information within it, but we're not looking into it today. Similarly, in HTTP live streaming, there is a manifest, but the format now changes. It has a different extension, obviously, .m3u8, but there is a concept of a master manifest and a child manifest. So in the master manifest, it'll tell you, here is a video stream. It's available in all of these resolutions, and you pick one of them. So let's say the 760 pixel. And then in that case, your device will load one of these child manifests, which in turn will actually point you to different time segments. That's the TS file. So if you want to watch like the 20th second, how do I go fetch that? That is what is contained in these manifest files, right? So that is how the different formats even look like, right? Just before going into this part, let's actually take a quick look at Chrome and actually see this in action, right? So let me go in here. So this is a video that we have, and if you notice, what I did is I just loaded a video, and in the manifest, so here what I'm doing, just for your sake as well, load the video whenever you have a stream and go into the fetch XHR, and you will notice requests going out. So in my case, the first request is for the MPD file, which is this XML here, and it is actually telling you how the video is available. So there is one video at one resolution, so that's 640 by 360, a second video stream which is available at this one, and then it has information about that. Then your browser actually goes ahead and starts making requests for that. So in my case, it actually picked the 361. Normally all devices pick the very first one as the first request, so that's what happened. And then immediately switched over because it realized I have a better internet connection to the 721, and then it starts making multiple requests. We'll come back and see this in a few moments on why it's doing this way, but just keep this in mind, right? So let's go back to our presentation.
Quick question for you. So how often does it ping to figure out which version? And if you're going to cover that in later slides, we can wait. But it's, you said it kept going back to see. And so how often? So because we see this when you're watching, let's say Netflix, right? All of a sudden it becomes pixelated. So then your bit rate obviously went down, and it's because the internet maybe is down. How often is that pinging happening?
So the manifest file is already available. So that's the very first request. So from there, it can actually go fetch the other files. Now, the way it works is your browser first loads one of a few of those segments, and then when the player comes to a point where it's going to figure out that my buffer is ending, I need more bytes. At that instance, it makes a quick check saying, hey, is my network condition still the same, or do I need to upgrade, degrade, right? And at that point, it goes back,
So every
references the
time it's getting
manifest.
those bytes. Yep.
Yeah, it's at that
Okay, that
instance.
makes sense. Cool.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, so instead of just looking at something that was pre-created, I just wanted to show you something that you could try on your own. So if you have FFmpeg, the way you could use that is you can use that command and actually generate these kind of files for streaming. So the first one is telling you like, I just pulled on an ancient commercial from archive.org, and I'm converting that to HLS. So that's that one command. Or if you want to do it in Dash, you can just use the second command and try that out. Now, when you do that, you get different files or broken down, and then you can load it. So let's take a look at how you would actually play these files, right? So let's switch over to Chrome and take a look. So this is a very simple page. All I'm doing is saying, hey, there is a video. Let's load this particular video here, right? How did we do that? So the way I did it is I'm using a player called video.js, which is freely available. And then that's all of this code. And in my video tag, I'm just giving some information that's necessary for the player to load. So the ID has to be same. So if you see here, it says my video, it's my video, and a few other things. And then for the player, we are saying what is the source. So since I'm running it locally, I'm just saying it's in the same folder called mpd, out.mpd, and the type is -xml. Since I'm playing it on Chrome, I would prefer to use this. right? So that is how you can do this if you want to try it out on your own. So that's that one. Cool. So let's go back to our presentation, right? Um, now, if you notice, the command is kind of complex and it keeps growing in complexity as you start adding more and more of these different representations that you need. So if you have like, just 760 pixel, that's one set, 1080, another set, and so on, right? Um, Now, we already saw the player on how the adaptive bitrate streaming itself works, but one thing I did not really explain is in all the cases I've been saying you need a player. Now, why is that? Now, the reason is if you use the HTML video tag, that itself by itself cannot support the full adaptive streaming capabilities. So what happens is if you just use a video tag, it can load either the manifest, which is directly supported, and just play that, or it can just play a simple MP4. But if you want the full adaptive bitrate capability, you would need to use a player. And what the players do is they're able to interpret and understand these formats or these containers, and then add the functionality of checking the network conditions or checking your browser or device information and then switching the stream as necessary. So that's the reason that even in the previous example, I showed that you have to use the video.js player. But in our case, what we are doing is I'm just using a Cloudinary video player, which is built on video.js, but it's more optimized for working with our URL formats and our transformations. So it adds that functionality, right? So that's how we did this, right? Um, Now this example, if you have been following all the other trainings, it is saying you have a video, whatever be the resolution, and you want to make it ready for streaming. How would you do it? The recommendation from Cloudinary is if you have a video that you're going to host and deliver through us, you would want to pre-create different variations of that video so that the very first user doesn't have to wait for long, right? The transcoding is expensive process. It will take time, expensive in the sense of CPU intensive. Um, so it's better to kind of keep it ready before a real user comes in. And that's what this is saying. So it says, given a video, in this case it's skiing video, it says, give me one representation in full HD Wi-Fi. Uh, when I don't mention anything, it's H.264. Then I'm saying, get me another version in H.265 and a third version in VP9. Now, it's questionable whether you need all of this because it is going to add to your storage, but it's a decision that a lot of our customers have to do, right? And that's what this one is doing. So if you had all of this, what would it look like on the actual player? So let's take a look. Let's switch over to our Chrome and go to our player. Now, if you see here, what I have done is I've kind of put together everything that we have covered so far into a single player example. Now, this is just a replit, so you can easily go take a look. And the main part of the code starts here, where we say, what is the source for the player? Now, if you notice, the syntax is very similar to the video.js example I showed, the hand coding one, where we are adding a lot of other information for this particular stream, right? So the first thing we are telling is this video, we have multiple options. So this player can actually pick up VP9, H.265, or 264, right? And then we have explained what that profile does. So this is something that the player requires. So when it actually makes a request, it knows it's going to be in full HD Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi VP9 or 265 or H.264, right? Um, and then just for fun, it also has some caption information. Now, what the player does is because we have given an array of options, it picks the first thing that it can support. So in this case, since I'm playing it on Chrome, it'll actually pick dash VP9, right? But if I were to play this on Safari, it will actually not pick this, but it'll switch over to the second one because it does support H265. Now, these are the things that a player actually has the ability to figure out, and that which you will not get with simple HTML video tags, right? And yeah, of course, like if you were to play this, it starts playing a video, you will see captions coming in and so on, right? So that's how you would configure a player, and you can work with that, right? Great. Now let's go back to our presentation. Right? Yeah, this one is just telling how you would do it on React. Instead of showing you a little more complex code, I just showed you how you can do it on simple plain HTML, right? Um, Now, just before getting to this one, I did want to show one other thing. So we saw the format a video looks like when you have it in Chrome, right? Let's take a quick look at what it would look like when you're doing it in Safari, right? So let's get to our Safari browser. So I have the same player, but if you notice, when I play this, it's actually not going to load the dash, but it's going to load the HLS. Um, the, the cool thing I like about Safari is it can kind of group all requests for one resource together. So in this case, what happened is when the video first loaded, we have a poster image. So that's this JPEG. That's what you would normally see when you're not playing the video. And then it has the first manifest file, the master manifest. And it is saying that, hey, there are, in this case, there are two options. There is a 720 pixel and a 360 pixel. And it's up to the browser on what it wants to pick. And normally for HLS at least, the rule is the first one you specify is the higher resolution, and then it starts going down. So that's what we have done. And in my case, my browser did pick that up. So it's made a request, and you'll see that it's saying what are the different time segments. So that's 7.99, more or less 8 seconds. So every single segment I'm getting is 8 seconds in length. And then it's actually making request for all of these different time segments. And if you notice here, it's very clear. It goes from byte 0 to 2918. And if you notice, the way that gets interpreted is through this. So the second part of that, -1, is what you'll see in the byte range request. So 2918, that's here. Then 715 -1, so 714, and so on. And that's how it makes a request for all of these. But what's interesting is regardless of whether it's Chrome or Safari, before I even play, you would have, you will see a whole set of byte range requests or buffering going on. The reason is your browser is thinking that, hey, the moment this user hits play, we need to be able to play something. So it kind of makes a heuristic call and buffers a whole set of these segments just in case you're going to play the video, right? And the way it works is dependent on the browser. So Safari generally tends to be a little more aggressive because it wants to give you a smoother experience with the video. Chrome tends to be a little more conservative with that. So that's how the different formats look like. Great. So let's go back to our presentation. So we spoke a lot about different profiles, the streaming profile of HD Wi-Fi, HD Wi-Fi, H265, and so on. Now, sometimes it can get a little confusing or a little hard to understand, right? Um, to make that simple, what we did at Cloudinary is we introduced this other alternative, which is SP Auto or Streaming Profile Auto. So what that does is when you upload a video, you can tell us that, hey, I have this video, but I'm not very sure on what profile to use. But I do know that I want to stream as HLS, right? So in this example, and you tell me what's the right way to do it, right? So in this case, that's what you're seeing. So we said we want an HLS video, and we gave the streaming profile as auto, and we just uploaded the resource. So when you actually make a request for it, you will see the profile kicking in. So in the previous cases, we would actually tell, I want this specific profile, whereas in this case, we did not, right? So let's see how this actually works in action. So if we can switch over to our Safari again, we will see this example video. So this is just a video that we loaded using the SP Auto. Now in Cloudinary, you can actually see what we're requesting in the URL. So here I'm saying it's a streaming profile auto, but I'm saying it's an M3U8. So that means it's an HLS video. And what happened is, again, it loaded my master manifest. And because I did not specify any single profile, it is saying that, hey, for this video, we have a whole bunch of them available. So there is, 1080 pixel, 720, 360, and even a 540 now, and a lot more. And my browser picked one of them. And if you want to check which one it is, you can just look at the request that went in, and it's the 180 pixel. So that's the version it has picked. And then it's making all the byte range requests. So the first time it aborted for some reason, and then it's actually making a request, and it starts going on, right? And that's this video. So that's how streaming profile auto would work for you, right? So that's this one. So let's go back to our presentation, right? So those were the main concepts around streaming and how the video player puts these things together. But these are not the only things a player is capable of. It can actually add a little more functionality. So I wanted to show you that as well, right? So when you're working with a player, you have the ability to create things like playlists, recommendations, things that you would normally see on places like YouTube, Vimeo, and so on. You can do video ads even, but for today, I just wanted to show you how you can capture different analytics and a concept of shoppable video, right? So let's go into analytics. Now, whenever you host a video, in a lot of instances, the teams that are publishing these videos would really be interested to know how often were these videos played. Um, you loaded the video, but did someone even play it? How long did they play? Did they pause? Did they play it to completion? Or did they bail out at certain point? So if you want to capture all of those things, you would need analytics. Now, most of the players out there actually offer you these kind of metrics. So let's take a look at what we have with the Cloudinary player. So just switching over to Chrome, you'll see this. So I've already loaded this video, and if you see here, it says, the volume changed, volume. Let's actually just refresh it, right? So now I paused it, and if you see here, it said pause, and then let's unmute, and then it said I unmuted it. Let me mute it back again, and then I play, right? And then so I did a seek, so it's telling me that I seeked, and then it also says that I played until 100%, and the video ended. So in this case, this user actually watched the entire video. So that's an analysis that you can make out of all the event notifications that you have received.
This
That's
this is actually really powerful because if you see a bunch of people doing volume change, that means your video is probably too loud and you need to adjust it, right? I mean, no, because sometimes you record too hot, as they say. Also, if you see people rewind, because I'm assuming seek is forward or rewind, right?
Yep.
So if you constantly rewind, and I don't know if the analytics can do that, but if you see like, hey, where the users keep repeating this section, maybe it's not a clear section, right? That maybe you have to record. That's some powerful analytics you can use to adjust your videos for to make it more effective.
Exactly. Yep, that's true. And the way these players are built is they're giving you all of this analytics. You can just hook into any analytics platform as such. So if you're using Google Analytics, you capture all of these events and push it to your existing analytics solution, and then you can do the analysis there.
I know this is beyond the scope of this lesson, but are there specific analytic tools focused on video analytics that you know of, or?
Yeah, there are. So honestly, in this case, we are talking only about simple stream. So if you
Right,
actually think about real live streaming, you would want even more amount of analytics in terms of like, how is the buffering going on?
right.
Was there a delay in the video itself being played? There's also a concept of jitter. That means you're kind of losing out segments.
Mm-hmm.
How much did that happen? So there are tools like Conviva, which actually give you a lot more analytics than what I've shown in this demo.
Right. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they're available. Yep. Thank you. Cool. So let's go back to our presentation. Um, so we saw there is one capability, which is just this analytics. The other thing that we do have that's kind of cool is this concept of shoppable videos. So what that does is, let's say you're running an e-commerce site and then you want to drag the attention of user to a product that came in at some point in the video. Or let's say you're running a real estate agency and then you're showing like a demo of the house, and you're now at, let's say, the living area, and at that instance you want the user to click and see all the other photographs of the living area. You can do that. So that's what this shoppable video does. If we can go over to Chrome, I can show you a demo of that. So here's the shoppable video, and then when you play, what happens is it starts, and then you get this button here, and then if you hover, you can do multiple things. So one of the call to action is, let's say a user clicks on it and they go somewhere. So one idea is like, maybe when they click, they actually go to the product page. The moment they go there, they can take a look and buy, right? The other thing that you could do is pull them back to the point where this product was. So in this case, let's say it's the sunglasses. So I click here and then it takes me, pauses the video, and then it highlights where that product was and then continues from there. So those are some of the things you can do with shoppable videos.
Now, is this a capability of the video player of Cloudinary, or is it a capability of the video.js player in general?
Yeah, so this is actually an enhancement that we have done
Mm.
for the video.js player. But the format is pretty similar. So in the video.js, it takes all information as a JSON.
Mm-hmm.
In here, it's an extension. You just pass an array with the product detail information, and that's what gets incorporated.
And I'm assuming analytics are tracked if they click on a shoppable button and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you get events based on all of that. Yes.
That's very, very cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Great. So let's get back. So that's shoppable videos. So that's something that we have seen a lot of our customers actually try out nowadays. And we do have other capabilities that I did not cover. So you can actually incorporate playlists. So if someone played this particular video, tell them all of these other things are available. Very common feature that you would normally see on places like YouTube. You can also do ad insertion if you need monetization on the videos. But those things take a little more time in terms of configuration and setup. So we did not go over that for today. So that's what I had, and hope it was interesting for everyone.
It was extremely interesting. This is amazing. I mean, I personally learned a whole bunch of stuff. Thank you so much for getting into so much detail. To me, what's really powerful is all the analytics, right? Because then you can really start analyzing and customizing your videos to make it more effective, whether it's if you want to convert to a sale or if you want to teach people, right? And you want to know, are you being clear or not, right?
Yep.
So very, very interesting. Akshay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
If people want to get a hold of you, that email right there is the best?
Yeah, they can get hold of me on that email, or I'm also on LinkedIn.
Yep, you are. All right. Akshay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thanks to the rest of you for being here. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I know I did. And remember to continue your journey learning all about digital asset management system by watching the next lesson. Also, remember, we have a knowledge certification exam you can take. Make sure you use the study guide for this lesson, which you can find in the bonus section of this course. And as always, my email address is right there, marcelo@headlesscreator.com. So we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.